Welcome back, my sports loving friends, to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, and I have Sportsmemo's very own Jesse Schule on at his regular time here Wednesday at 3 o'clock. I was stuck in a little bit of traffic getting here, so it's on me, but we normally will start at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every single Wednesday. And then you get to see him a second time at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for a little bit longer show with the Manny's Irish Pub, which is co-hosted with Tony Finn of Wager Talk and Rob Vino of Wager Talk. And we're also going to have kind of our third co-host in Tony Mejia, and he's a NBA draft expert. So the topic today is going to be about the NBA draft that occurs tomorrow night. So there's a lot going on, Jesse, and I've been watching the ticker tape as much as I can here with the rumors, the speculation. Have you been hearing anything about any moves that the Cubs might be, selling a lot more assets?
Yeah, I've been hearing that, and I guess it's interesting with the Dodgers. Kenley Jansen's just fallen apart lately. I don't know if you've seen the latest series against the Giants, but back-to-back nights he cost him the game. I think I had the Dodgers in both of those as well, so it affected me, and I guess that has them looking at Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah, I think that's a name I think that definitely will be going somewhere. The Dodgers desperately need some kind of it's not even an insurance policy on Jansen at this point. I think they ought to move him down to a setup man and then bring in a guy like Kimbrell who's in great form. He's only blown 2 saves all year, and despite his 35 years of age, he's pitching like he's 25, and back at his All-Star days of 2010, 2011, and he was an All-Star after that as well. But I think that's a name we're going to see. I do see that the A's get Sterling Marte from Miami, which is, that's going to help, I think. The Dodgers are definitely eyeing Kimbrell here on my ticker for sure.
I guess that's bad news for Yankees fans.
What was that?
That's bad news for Yankees fans that the A's picked up Marte.
Definitely. And
not only did the Yankees want him, but now they're chasing Oakland for that wild card spot, right? And
yep,
kind of puts them on the back foot.
And then a guy that I thought was going to move, Joey Gallo. Apparently, the talk is that Texas, despite their losing ways and the manager calling out his team and his team responding in a highly negative fashion, losing 12 in a row before winning last night, appears to be giving him a very large extension, which will make him a Ranger for a very long time, perhaps even his entire career. But that was a name that I thought would be definitely commanding a very high price in the market, an overvaluation that would be so high that only the Yankees would be the ones that be able to do it or would pull the trigger on and want to do it. The Padres too, they are kind of throwing the fiscal restraint out the window. That was the word I was looking for, because they're the 5th smallest market. And they are going to be in the luxury tax here before Friday ends, which is kind of an interesting situation because apparently they're really setting up to win now versus later. And they have 2 teams ahead of them already in the NL West. So I thought that was a pretty interesting topic. And I must say, Jesse,
you got the Tampa Bay Rays. Their total salary is about half the league average, and look at where they are. It's amazing what they've been able to do with that little money.
Yeah, and no doubt there. That's a great point. I just saw it too, and I must take credit for this, that on the Manny's Irish Pub, it was Rob Vino, I believe, and actually you might have been on the show too last week, or maybe not, but it was definitely Tony Finn and Rob Vino where it was basically the day that DeGrom went on the injured list. And I said, boy, if he stays on there for a while, then Zach Wheeler, the Phillies, has probably got a chance to win the Cy Young. And sure enough, I see an article here that is titled, "Is Wheeler the front runner for the National League Cy Young?" So now that comes out, his betting lines will probably come down for the Cy Young quite a bit. And I don't know how long DeGrom's going to be out. I know he flew on flat ground, but that usually means you're at least a week away. If you're not, doing bullpen sessions and you're just throwing on flat ground, then he could be 2 or 3 weeks away from coming back. But who knows? At the end of the day, who knows?
And even when he gets back, how long is he going to stay back? I mean, this has been an ongoing issue all year long. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the Mets' biggest problem right now. They're dead last in Major League Baseball, scoring 3 point something runs per game in home games. And they have the Braves in town again tonight. With that offense, you have to have near perfect pitching every single night. What I mean by that is quality starts. 6 innings, 3 earned runs or less. And that's why DeGrom, if he pitched for Houston, he'd probably be 20-2 at this juncture. But he's not. And he's I always felt for him because he is a tough luck pitcher being where he is, and the front office not bringing enough offense to support him, and it's just it's kind of a shame. But what else is going on here with? Here's one I can click on. Let's see what any speculation here. Oh, how about Brizzo? And I didn't even know that the Chicago fans actually called Bryant and Rizzo as a nickname, both of them. So it's Brizzo. And I thought that was pretty creative to take 2 players and make one nickname for both of them, and I can understand why. But there's been all kinds of talk that those guys are the teams are calling and asking what it's going to take to get them. We've seen Jock Peterson go, but somehow I think at the end of the day they would be foolish to do a fire sale and. Those 2 players, I don't think, Jesse, you'd be able to get the market price that you want because it is going to command so much. And only a few teams are going to be able to swing it. And it might even be like a complicated 3-team trade with a lot of prospects. And maybe the Cubs, taking on some of the payroll for the remainder part of this year. It just gets really complicated with these bigger guys. But, what do you think about the odds of both of them not being a Cub come Saturday?
I'd like to see them keep Rizzo. It just seems like it wouldn't feel right seeing Rizzo in another uniform. With Bryant, I think if they got the right offer, why not pull the trigger? There's the rumors are that the Mets are interested, and the Rays apparently are interested in Bryant. But you look at, like I said about the Rays' salary, what they've done on such a minimal amount of money. Does it really make sense for them to go out and buck that trend? I'm not 100% sure it's the best value for money picking up Chris Bryant right now.
And I would agree with that too. I think another name here worth talking about is Max Scherzer. I think that's essentially a done deal somewhere, and that's where the Dodgers really have the problem right now. They're a very great team as it is. They have so many injuries now. The starting rotation is not good enough at this point to even overtake the Giants, let alone win the pennant and get to the World Series. So I would almost think now, despite Jansen's problems being a closer, that the Dodgers might eye up Max Scherzer and take him instead of fortifying the bullpen. There's no way they can do both. I don't think there's a chance that they could fiscally be able to do both, but I think their preference would be Max Scherzer because of the experience, and he hasn't been the Max of old, but he's still Mad Max.
It makes plenty of sense to me. I think rumor has it that Bauer's out and they don't want him back.
Yep.
So they've invested heavily in this roster. They're going to need to fill that gap, I think.
And this is just pure speculation, but what if the Phillies did get to back up a second, they had a trade done apparently with Tyler Anderson, who then that deal fell apart because one of the Phillies prospects, his medical report came back. Somehow the medical report came back bad, and the trade got decayed, and then shortly thereafter, Anderson's on his way to Seattle, and then Seattle unloads Graveman, and apparently Graveman was like shocked, almost to the point of tears, that Seattle got rid of him. And Tony Finn yesterday did a great job talking about him and how valuable he was to Seattle. Every time he pitched, they were I think it was something like 28-2, Jesse. That when he was in a game, Seattle was 28-2, and he was basically pitching mostly the eighth inning, sometimes into the ninth, sometimes the seventh into the eighth. But Seattle has a 6-1 record when tied or trailing at the seventh, and then he comes into the game. And I ran that on my database yesterday, and I thought that was just off the charts remarkable. Usually when you're tied or losing, especially losing in the seventh, you usually don't come back. So for them to do that move, I still think it's very puzzling. You have any thoughts on that one?
I agree. I was shocked when I heard about that, and I remember we were talking about Seattle right at the All-Star break, and everybody was saying it's a foregone conclusion. They're going to start to lose. They're going to lose games. They're going to fall off the map, but they haven't. They're still in the race. They're only I think a game out of a wild card spot, and you'd think they'd be picking somebody up instead of dealing somebody at this point. That fan base has waited a long time to have any positive news. They're right, even if they just stay competitive and keep their fans interested, I think it would be worth it right now for them. There's only 5 teams in Major League Baseball that have spent less money than the Mariners, so it's not like they can't afford it.
That's true.
But I guess it looks like it signifies that they're not interested in competing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they make that move and then they turn around and pick somebody else up, but it sort of doesn't look like it.
I agree with you. It is. It's fun to speculate, though. We're not privy to what's going on in the war rooms. But you can only imagine being a fly on the wall in some of those meetings. I imagine it gets pretty emotional and pretty heated at times because front office, some of they have their favorite guys, and I can't imagine it being a boardroom type meeting. I think it's probably more UFC type discussions without the physicality. But the Phillies, I will go on a limb here, and this is just pure gut, that Chris Bryant will be a Philly by the end of the week. And to your point, you bring up a great point, Jesse, that of the two, Rizzo is kind of he's the captain of that team, even though they don't have a captain. He's the face of that franchise. And it wouldn't feel right if he was gone. Therefore, Bryant is the guy that can go. And since the Phillies didn't land the starting pitcher that they had hoped to get, they may turn around and forget the defense side and go after a big bat to protect Harper. And, Rhys Hoskins has done a great job recently. Grigori, McCutcheon's batting cleanup. McCutcheon now is batting cleanup, as odd as that sounds. And he's doing a great job, but it's short term. I think it's a Band-Aid, and you can't expect McCutcheon to hit walk-off home runs, once a week, let alone once a month. But if they bring in a guy like Bryant and put him, say Harper batting second and then Bryant third, that would be something. And I think you'd see Harper's batting average. I think all his offensive numbers would go up a lot with somebody of that caliber protecting him. But it's just a hunch. It's just a hunch.
No, it sounds like a good plan to me. I mean, it all fits. It all makes sense.
Yeah, because I always come back to the Mets' pathetic offense, and there's no other way to sugarcoat it. Yes, they're going to have some games where they score 7, 8, 9 runs, but consistently, no, it's just not going to happen. You can make a case that they only scoring 3.5 runs at home, and it's only a matter of time until that number goes up. I can't debate that because it's coming from such a low number. Of course, it can go up. You have 10 games where you score between 3 and 5 runs, it's going to go up a quarter of a point. You're almost at 4 then. But still, it just seems like the NFC East here is going to be won by the Phillies. And the Braves don't seem to have it all together, but the Phillies seem to be the only team that actually is putting it all together at the right time. And I'm not suggesting in a million years they're going to beat the likes of a Milwaukee based on what I see now, or the Dodgers, or the Giants, or the Padres. So that then what we talked about yesterday, Jesse, was that then you, as a management, say you're the GM of the Phillies. Is this really the time to get after it? Is it really the time to really get Bryant now and then almost immediately sign him to a big deal so that you have him? You're not renting him, because he's a free agent next year, and it's very unlikely that he'll be back with the Cubs. What I would think, because they're selling. If they're selling all these assets off, there's really no rhyme or reason for Bryant to stay as a Cub. And that's just my take.
The answer to that question might be finding out exactly what's going on with Jake DeGrom, for both teams. If DeGrom's not coming back, or if you can't count on him coming back, does it make sense for the Mets to go out and pick up a big bat? And then if he's not, and that's an opportunity for Philly, maybe they make that move.
Yeah, that's a good angle too. I like that. Yeah, that makes more sense than even what I said. Yeah, there's so many different ways to look at this, and I think that's why I do enjoy these trade deadlines. Actually, more than I'll like the NBA draft tomorrow. And I'll actually enjoy watching that. Wager Talk's going to have a big time show on their TV channel on YouTube. And I think that's starting at 7:30, but we'll firm those details up. But that's something that, for guys and gals in the chat room, if you want to have some of the best minds for the NBA draft at your fingertips, then that's the show to put on your notifications now, so you don't forget and miss it. Let's see, what else do we have here? Well, the one thing I don't do much of the promoting, but I guess people have probably seen the scrolling on the bottom here, where I'm on a 10-0 Major League Baseball hot streak, and July has been quite kind, and hopefully August is going to be similar. But I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's what, and say that I'm going to hit 83% again for the month of August in totals, because it's unrealistic. But if you hit, every month, the target is 58 to 62, and you're in that range, that's a good month. But they are running a special here. You can get the Major League Baseball all the way from now until August 31st for just $99. And that is a pretty good deal. So you would use MLB 99, and that gets you on board Major League Baseball all the way to August 31st. And then the other what was I going to say here?
I got a quick question for you.
Go ahead.
That 10-0 baseball run, is that straight out of the All-Star break, or is that carrying over between prior and after?
It's after the All-Star break. It's actually the last 7 days.
So what's the secret to your success? Did you figure something out coming out of the All-Star break, an angle that you'd like to share with us? I could use the help, because I was red hot heading into the break and cooled off significantly after the All-Star break.
It has been an interesting run, because we've all had 10-0 runs in our career, but this is the first one that I can remember in many years where it's been dominated by totals. And I run my models. Some of these models are based on machine learning applications, and I can weight different parameters. We've seen bullpens this year worse than ever as a complete league unit, so I'm able to tweak that, and lo and behold, whatever I finitely tweet apparently has brought some reward. But with that said, it has to go longer to prove that it actually was a good move to change the weighting system a fraction, and that's all it was. So honestly, I don't know right now whether that was the reason why all of a sudden this went 10-0. I had one total that went over the total in the ninth inning. So I mean that's not the best of calls, but I also had the Rockies last night, which I know people thought I was nuts on that call, but I didn't forecast that the Rockies were going to beat the Angels that badly. But it's nice when they do, and that's you've been there, Jesse. When you're seeing the card pretty good or pretty well, as I think I'm pretty in tune with it, it becomes pretty easy. And conversely, when you're not seeing the card, and no matter what kind of glasses you put on, it's still a really difficult situation to identify winners. That's the other side of the spectrum. But we ride these things as long as we possibly can. Marco D'Angelo, co-founder of Wager Talk, won 25 Major League Baseball plays in a row. And what was astounding about it was that none of the favorites he played were higher than minus 125. So that run is probably going to stand as the Wager Talk and Sports Memo record for the foreseeable future. I think the most I ever won in a row, Jesse, was 17, and I don't expect myself to go 7-0 to get to that level. I mean, we've been doing this long enough that realistically, yeah, it'd be great, but I'm certainly not going to go on a show or put it in writing that, oh yeah, it's just a matter of time until we're 17-0. We're running so hot. I can't do that, and that's why my promotions are so subdued compared to others. But I am excited about the NFL preseason coming up, and there again, the models. I've done well with those. I don't have the records on those, but it's right around 61% over the last 5 years in the NFL preseason. So right away, you get questions like, well, how in the world do you do it when you don't even know who's going to start or who's going to play? It's based on, it starts with the coaching. And to start off with, and it's not necessarily top of the priority list, if you have a new coach coming into an NFL team, they want to establish a positive culture right out of the chute. The reason the guy's a new coach is because the previous coach and his staff failed. And the season ended negatively. The season ended, with some toxicity. They bring the new guy in. And, of course, if you and I were the new guy, you'd probably want to go 4-0 in the preseason. But sometimes it takes a couple games before. So a new coach that is 0-2 in the preseason, I can tell you right now, just in and of itself is a good bet. But then, it's the numbers with the preseason, because I don't have the time. Although I use Tony Finn and Rob Vino, they talk to everybody, especially Tony Finn, and he knows kind of an insider's look at each team week to week. So that's a huge asset to have, no doubt. But my whole stuff starts with the models, and the models learn. They're neural nets. They learn from previous history, and now they have decades of preseasons that they've learned from, and history repeats. It might not repeat exactly the same, but it repeats, and it doesn't necessarily repeat season to season. It might have been 5 years ago that a situation happened, and now it's going to happen again. But August 5th is coming up. Do you do preseason?
I do, yeah. I'm quite selective with my preseason. I usually 1 or 2 games a week only. And, I try to really pick my spots. But I've had some success for sure with preseason betting. I just dabble in it. Like you say, I focus a lot on the coaching, focus a lot on teams with young backup quarterbacks that I'm quite familiar with out of college that are going to get, the majority of the snaps or whatever. And but those situations only present themselves in a handful of games. So, throughout a 4-week preseason, I might play 8-10 games.
Yeah, and that's I'm probably in that 10 to 14 range, but still in the same ballpark. There's just not enough quality games to wager, because you and I look at it as what's the end result going to be at the end of the preseason? What's the result going to be at the end of the NFL regular season? And week to week, it could be, 0-2, 2-0, 1-1. And that part of it really doesn't matter. It's the process that we know that come the end of the year, it's going to be significantly above the 50% winning record. Is there anybody in the NFL that you're possibly targeting now as maybe a sleeper or a team that you would avoid?
I hadn't really thought of it, but I guess I would look. I was talking about it with one of my buddies last night over dinner, and he was telling me how Tom Brady is the GOAT, and the Bucs are going to be just as good this year as they were last year, and that makes plenty of sense. But there is the Super Bowl hangover. I've been waiting for Brady to fall off the map for seems like 7 or 8 years now, and I'll just tell you that I'll be hesitant to lay 7, 8, 9, 10 points with the Bucs. Let's say, I don't see how you're going to get any value betting on the Bucs in the first few weeks.
I completely agree. You can see it now. The Westgate has every single game. It's 274 regular season games lined with totals, and needless to say that the Bucs are favored in every single one. I believe it's the Rams when they go on the road. I want to say week 4, but I don't. I think it's week 4, but that's the only game that, based on the market, looks like it's going to be a hard-fought game and very close. But it's way too early to speculate on any nonsense like them going undefeated. Just because they're favored in every single game that's ridiculous. I don't think we'll see an undefeated team for the foreseeable future. It's just the parity in the NFL is too great. For example, last year, I guess what was it, week 15, the Jets were 14.5-point home dogs and won outright against Seattle. Those are the games that just are outliers, but they crop up at weird times, and there you go. And the same thing for these undefeated teams, and you get past 10-0, and you got a target on you. And any opponent you're playing thereafter is going to want to beat you and probably beat you bad. But
I prefer bragging about my the things I got right in life rather than the things I got wrong. But it was a few years ago that I wrote an article about the decline of Tom Brady, titled "No Country for Old Men," a spinoff of the movie. And in that article, I did a bunch of comparisons of all-time great quarterbacks and how they tend not to slowly deteriorate year after year, but they tend to just fall off the map. They go from the top of their game to just, they just lose it at the age of, a lot of them lose it in their mid to late 30s. And, you got Brady, he's lasted longer than pretty much anybody. And, maybe he continues to do that, but at some point he's going to fall off the map.
That is true.
And it's probably going to happen when people don't see it coming.
That's exactly right. That's the best point of the whole thing. That is exactly right. And it's like market tops and looking at Bitcoin and stuff that I talk about with Steve Merrill on Tuesdays. And I've been doing that longer than I've been doing the sports stuff. And the tops are always made when everybody feels good. Everybody feels great about it. Everybody's bullish. Oh, isn't this wonderful? And then the tops actually happen, and then it's several weeks later, after some serious carnage, that the TV talking heads finally say, "Oh yeah, back when." But the charts tell you when that stuff's going on, and I'm willing to say that in our analytical studies, we'll probably be able to get some warning signs, at least not to be on a 42-year-old quarterback at some point in the future. And we might not either. But usually you're right.
You can't wait till he's had 6 bad games in a row and then start to decide to bet against him, right?
That's right. Yeah, because then you probably want to do the opposite.
If you're going to bet against him, he's probably coming off of a big Super Bowl win when he's a double-digit favorite. double-digit favorite on the road against some team that's not supposed to be that competitive, that's probably the time to bet against him.
Yep, I agree. And before I let you go, because we have Manny's Irish Pub show starting in 15 minutes, I wanted to just highlight a few Olympic swimming bets. I was, you may wonder why we're talking about swimming, but I was a long time ago. I was an All-American. I know a lot about the sport, and now that for the first time I can actually look at odds. I mean, why not play some pizza money on some of these things? I had a young teenager in women's 100-meter butterfly, Tori Husk, and I bet her to win at, I think it was 750 or 650 to 1. Not 650, plus 650 money line. And so she leads basically the whole way. She loses the gold medal by 16 100ths of a second, and she didn't medal. She lost the bronze by 100th of a second. So it was a very exciting race, and that's why you put pizza money on these. It makes it a little bit more exciting to watch, but I didn't need to have a bet on that race to enjoy it. That was Olympic competition at its finest, and man alive.
Well, I don't know anything about swimming, but I did notice that some kid from Tunisia won one of those races, and I was wondering if you had any idea what the odds on that would have been.
I'll have to look it up, Jesse. It wasn't that high of odds because if it's the guy I think you're talking about, whose name escapes me, he actually trains here in the United States and attends a pretty powerful Division I school too. And I just can't put it together, but I'll look it up between now and Manny's Irish Pub show here at 4:00, and then we can mention that, because that's a common thing in even track and field. You can have a track and field athlete at, say, LSU, and then then they go back to their home country and they represent the home country, which I have no problem with it. But they're obviously going to get a lot better training here in the United States than anywhere else. It's pretty clear which country is winning the most gold medals.
I just noticed that while I was watching the race, the announcers they seemed to think that this guy had no chance, and they kept on suggesting that somebody was going to pass him, and it never happened.
Do you remember if it was a long-distance race?
I just don't know enough about swimming.
I'll look it up, and then we'll revisit it here in a few minutes. But for purposes of this show, 200-meter backstroke is going to be a final that will occur in the days ahead. And if you really want to take a shot, the guy's name is Rylov, and that's the Russian Olympic Committee is what their team is called this year. Rylov is the guy, he's minus 250 to win the event, and that's a big favorite. So it's unlikely he's going to be upset. But this guy from Great Britain, and Great Britain's having a great Olympics so far in swimming, Luke Greenback. And how appropriate is that in the 200-meter backstroke that his name is Greenback? And Greenback, as you know, was a common, that's what they called the U.S. $1 bill for the longest time. So I kind of have a little interest in there, and I think he's a guy that's really on a high improvement curve. These guys train very hard, and then they taper down for these world championships and the Olympics. And when the taper goes right, some of these young guys and young women can, exceed their personal best times by multiple seconds. And I think he's definitely one of those that can. So he's plus 450 to win it. And I think they're at the semifinal stage, which will be swum tonight. Apparently it looks like 10:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be a live event. So I would look for him to get to the final. And if he swims really well tonight, he's not going to be plus 450 anymore. So if you like the idea, it's probably good to put the pizza money on that now. But that's essentially all I have, Jesse.
Sounds like a good bet. That'll keep the Olympics interesting for me tonight.
Yeah, especially your time would be like 7:04.
That's right.
Yeah, not even close to bedtime. Well, Jesse, thanks for your time. And guys, make sure you get over to sportsmemo.com and check both of us out. All right, we're veteran guys. We've been doing this a long time. You can trust our work. There's not going to be any scams or any of the other stuff that unfortunately happens. We're pretty straight shooting guys. So there's opportunities now across the board to get some of these subscriptions at a very cheap price. In fact, some of the cheapest that has ever been offered by Wager Talk and Sports Memo. In fact, I believe it's baseball, Jesse, you can combine a Wager Talk and a Sports Memo handicapper into one shopping cart, and you'll get 60% off just by doing that. So it's not, the Wager Talk family and the Sports Memo family. It's kind of like one big family, and we just happen to have two different names. So with that said, Jesse, thanks for your time. I'll see you in a little bit here. And on behalf of myself, Jesse, Predictive Playbook, sportsmemo.com, may all the wins be yours.